My name is Victor. I am the occult technician, and this is Mind War. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/mindwar. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Folks, before we begin our work from the book Magic, History, Theory, Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl, once again we find ourselves in a situation where we need to talk about current events from the news. Today, unfortunately, we need to talk about a man named Robert Paul Westman, aka Robin M. Westman, aka the Minnesota trans shooter. So a short time ago, Robert Westman here, shot up a Catholic school, killing a few and injuring several others. Okay. So the reason that we need to talk about this today is some of the information that was found in Robert's manifesto. It was very eye-opening, and it really caught my attention. And so first we're going to read a small piece from his manifesto, and then we're going to talk about why I think that we could have not only stopped this event, but we could have saved Robert. And I think we could have done it in a very simple way and in a very short time. So again, this is from the manifesto of Robert M. Westman. Again, this is the trans shooter from Minnesota. And it says this: I am sick of my hair. I want to chop it off. I only keep it because it is pretty much my last charade of being trans. I am tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself. I can't cut my hair off now, as it would be an embarrassing defeat, and it might be a concerning change of character that could get me reported. Okay, there's a lot going on in that short paragraph there. But before we get into the details and we break that down, how could we have helped Robert? Okay. I think by simply following the practices that we've been discussing and we've been using here in the Mind War. Okay. Very simple. Low dose psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms, low dose THC in combination with the Gateway Experience tapes and some type of spiritual practice. I think this would have saved Robert and his victims. Normally, I don't have empathy for the perpetrator, but in this case, I do. And we have to really dig through what he said there, because a lot of what we just read about this, it seems like an external force was sort of making Robert or keeping Robert in this trans state that he was in. So from what I understand, Robert was from a liberal Catholic family. What a disaster that must have been, right? A duality of sorts. So you have the conservative Catholic side and then your liberal family. It must have been very confusing and very difficult for this young man. And what it sounds like through his reading is that a lot of this idea of being trans for him was kind of forced upon him. Now, where have we heard that before? In the societal, cultural, and religious wet blankets that are placed upon this. I talk about this all the time in the Mind War podcast. To me, it feels like he was kind of maybe forced into this, right? And now, what happens when you take the low-dose THC and psilocybin and you work through the gateway experience tapes? Really taking any type of psychedelic is going to help remove your ego. Again, your ego is made up of all of those rules that you set for yourself based on the things that society, culture, and religion teaches you. These are external forces that you learn the rules of what it means to stay in that group, right? And I think there was a lot of external forces upon Robert. I think that through the use of psilocybin, again, helping strip away his ego, strip away all those fake rules that he was placing upon himself in order to fit in with his village, because that is an internal part of our human nature. We have to fit in with the village. I think he kind of allowed his ego to overtake him. But with the use of the psilocybin, maybe it would have stripped his ego away just enough and got rid of all those external rules, all those fake lies and all the pressure he was feeling. And maybe he could have actually felt who he truly was inside just for a moment. Now, that's not enough to help. I think doing it over and over and over again with the guided focus of the Gateway Experience tapes and the things that Robert Monroe teaches you. Again, through the tapes, they're not trying to teach you any specific way of thinking, any specific religion that you're supposed to follow. None of that's in the tapes. What it is simply stripping away everything else to allow you to become who you truly are. I think that would have helped Robert. I think that would have stopped this horrific event. And now again, let's go through this manifesto, this paragraph here again, line by line, and think of how simple this could have been. I am sick of my hair. I want to chop it off. I only keep it because it is pretty much my last charade of being trans. Again, the charade. He is playing this character. He's openly admitting it here. He says he's sick of the hair and he wants to chop it off. You see in the picture, it's absolutely ridiculous. This poor young man looks ridiculous. And the fact that his family and friends allowed him to do this to himself or promoted it, it's criminal. It's insane. And they should all be shamed by all of America for what they did. Instead of seeing the horrific, news reports about what happened, this tragic event where Robert went and did these killings, instead of seeing that, you know what we should have saw? We should have saw videos of Robert shaving his hair, detransitioning, saying, I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. Think of how beautiful it would be to watch that video of Robert shaving his ridiculous, female hair off. Think of how beautiful it would be if a trend started today where we saw men shaving their long hair off and saying, we're done pretending to be women. Again, it takes more than just shaving your head. Number one, you got to get off whatever the pills are. They're giving you the SSRIs, the mind meds. They're giving you hormones, right? Think of it. Think of being a young man pumped full of testosterone all day long. And now you introduce, I believe it's estrogen into your body in order to make you more feminine. It's got to be a physical and mental mind fuck. It has to just destroy you physically and mentally. It has to be so absolutely confusing. Again, that's why I have empathy for this specific perpetrator. He then goes on to say, I'm tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself. No, Robert, you did not brainwash yourself. You are the victim of external brainwashing. The societal, cultural, and religious wet blankets were forced upon you. This is what I've been talking about. This is what it means to be a mind warrior, citizen samurai, guerrilla guru, and warrior monk. You break free from those shackles and you find out who you truly are internally. You don't lie to yourself anymore. And that's the sad part. Before he went and committed this horrific crime, the truth was starting to come out. He could feel it. But again, it feels like there was external forces keeping him there. And that is when he says this: I can't cut my hair off now, as it would be an embarrassing defeat. He would feel defeated by becoming who he truly is. That is a sad fucking place to be. And his family and friends deserve nothing but shame for putting him in a position where he would feel defeated for being his true self. They're monsters, the people that surrounded him and helped him live in that illusion. In this next part, and it says, it might be a concerning change of character that could get me reported. Reported to who? I don't understand that. Is there some type of trans mafia that exists out there where if you try to detransition, they come after you or something? My guess is there probably is. Who fucking knows? But it's so sad to think that this young man, again, had these external forces pressed upon him that was keeping him from becoming his true self. Just a normal young man. No big deal. He could have just been a regular guy. It could have been so simple. Now, that's just one piece. That's just one reason that we're talking about this now on the Mind War podcast. Again, this type of stuff isn't normally what we try to do here on the podcast, but what I'm about to talk about next was really caught my eye and was pretty shocking. So what you're going to see here on the screen is a drawing that Robert wrote in his little notebook as part of his manifesto. And what it is a picture of him with his long hair. He's standing in front of the mirror. Unfortunately, he has a rifle strapped to his back. And in the mirror, he is depicting himself as a demon. A monster with horns, a scary face. And he's talking about how he sees himself as a demon in the mirror. We do not believe in coincidences here in the Mind War podcast. So it is not a coincidence in my mind that just a few episodes ago, this is just what, maybe 2 weeks ago, in the recent episode of the Mind War podcast where I shared with all of you and I taught all of you how to face your demons in the black mirror. I literally taught you how to get into the state of somnambulance, put the black mirror in front of you, set the candles, using the stare, how you can visually see yourself as a demon in the mirror. You can, through a sort of hallucinatory process, you can see your face changing in the mirror. And when you do that, these are representations of your internal demons, and you can face them. No longer fear them. You commune with them and ask what they truly want from you. You harness that energy, and then you do something creative and constructive and positive and good in the world. I know that doesn't make sense to so many out there. But the idea, again, that just days after I put out this video about how to face your demons in the mirror, and now in the mainstream, nationwide, international news, we have a trans shooter who draws a picture of himself as a demon in the mirror. No coincidences here, folks. We could have sat down with Robert, and in a short period of time, I believe in 90 days or less, we could have transformed this young man's life. We could have removed all of the nonsense, all of the lies he's been told, shaved his head. Would have been so freeing for him. One simple thing. Think if instead of walking out of the house that day with his armaments to go commit that crime, if he would have simply just shaved his head instead. That could have been one little puzzle piece that started his healing process. But that's not what happened. He was continued to be supported by the monsters in his life who lied to him, created this false illusion, which ultimately led to that tragic event. We could have stopped him. We could have stopped him. Very simply. And in such a simple way. Again, his life was complicated, full of mind-melting chemicals, full of weird, estrogen hormones and stuff, growing his hair out, being he was living an extremely complicated life, like so many people in the world today are. And what we do here in the Mind War podcast is we strip away all that complexity and help people first and foremost get down to their true selves, who they truly are. That's what I did through my work, and that's what I'm sharing with you. And once you get down to that true self, then you move forward. Then you build yourself up, this new self. And we could have done that for Robert. We could have helped him. If you know others out there who are in that same situation, we can help them. I would love to see a trend of shaved heads. Come on, man. Don't listen to the lies of those around you. Shave your heads. Get off the drugs. Listen to the tapes. And you can heal your mind, body, and spirit before you do something tragic as well. And speaking of another tragedy that has occurred recently, I believe this is just within this weekend. This is just days old news here. We see, I believe it was in North or South Carolina, a beautiful young white woman in her mid-20s, I believe. She gets on the train after leaving work. She's in her little polo shirt, her black polo shirt with the business logo. She's got her little black baseball cap on with the logo and her little blonde ponytail sticking out the back. Cute as can be. Reminds me of so many people that I love. That's why this particular story hits so deep for me. She gets done with work. She gets on the train to go home. She sits down quietly, minding her own business, says nothing to no one. But she sits in front of a middle-aged black man. And within just moments, according to the videos that I've seen, I don't know how long it actually played out, but within just a few moments, that black man took a small pocket knife out, flipped it open, put it in his hand, and started stabbing her in her throat until she died. Another tragic, unnecessary death by a monster, an animal. A repeat offender as well. Been arrested, I believe, what I've seen is 14-something times, multiple violent offenses. Let out on the streets by a black judge. Now, why am I bringing this one up? Okay, why am I bringing up this particular event, this tragedy that occurred? Almost a year and a half ago, maybe even longer, here on the Mind War podcast, I talked to you about an incident that occurred while I was working as a security guard at the local inner city library here in my hometown. Again, after 20 years of serving the United States Marine Corps, I moved back here to my hometown, and I fell for all the tropes about, oh, when you're done with service, you need to go back to your hometown and get to know your community and see where you can help. I thought I was going to be the good guy. So I became a security guard at the local library. I knew I would meet my community, a diverse group of people. I could see what their needs are and maybe help just a few of them. What I quickly found was that they didn't want my help, but they also hated me for even offering it. And again, when I talked about the incident, and the incident that happened was, again, a black man, much like the one from this story, came into the library, was skulking around for hours, and when I asked him if he needed anything, what was going on, if he needed help, he pulled out the exact same type of knife, a little pocket knife that he flipped out and threatened to stab and kill me with it. Now, I remember when, my reaction to this was, everyone has to leave the library. This is dangerous. Everybody out. We called the police. It took them hours to finally arrest him after multiple threats to different employees and stuff. I've told that story already. But the response that my coworkers, family, and friends, their response was not great. They thought I was kind of overdoing it, that I may have overreacted. Because ultimately, that was my last day of work. I quit working at the library. I said, I'm done with these people. I tried to help them. They hated me for it. Fuck them. I'm out. And again, the response from family and friends and coworkers was people thought maybe I was overreacting. Oh, it's just a guy with a little pocket knife. How much damage could he do? I knew exactly how much damage he could do. And we saw it with this woman being murdered mercilessly on the train. Now again, a year and a half ago plus, when I started talking about this on the podcast, President Biden was in. We were living in a state in America here where you are not allowed to talk about that type of stuff. And I put myself out there. I put myself in the firing line. I put myself in danger to tell that story. And that's a tough place to be in. To feel like you can't tell the truth about the crime and the danger that is around you. But I told that story as a warning. And that warning has come true. And it seems like it's coming true more and more every day. These events didn't need to happen, okay? We could have helped Robert, very simply. A few simple things, 90 days or less, we could have turned his life around. We see right now with President Trump and what he's done with Washington, D.C. by bringing in the National Guard and almost eliminating crime overnight. We see that some type of efforts are being made to prevent other attacks, like this black man killing this beautiful young white lady on the train. I hear he may be possibly sending the National Guard to Chicago and Los Angeles and maybe New Orleans, I guess, right? Any place where the crime is out of control. To me, I think of this as weeding the garden. America is a beautiful garden, pristine, and it needs to be well manicured. It needs to be cared for. And that's what we see President Trump doing with Washington, D.C. Not only did he bring in order enforcement. Again, not law enforcement, but order enforcement. He cleaned up the crime, drove out the criminals, but he's also beautifying Washington, D.C. as if it was a garden. I don't know his intentions behind it. Hopefully it is true and good, and it's not, just an ego thing for him or whatever. I think it may actually come from a place of love for this country. I hope that's what it is. But we need to see more of it everywhere, in every town. We need to weed the garden. It's simple. We just start with the worst of the worst. It's that simple, man. It doesn't need to be complicated. Just like helping Robert, it didn't need to be complicated. It didn't need years and years of psychotherapy and millions of SSRI drugs and all sorts of nonsense. 90 days, shave the head, take some mushrooms, strip away your ego, find out who you truly are on the inside. Listen to the Gateway Experience tapes to learn just a few tools about how to heal your mind, body, and spirit, deal with some of the negative things that may come at you. Very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, folks. So, again, this was a departure from what we're trying to do here in the Mind War podcast on this series of magic. But I think these tragedies, and especially with the focus of, Robert seeing himself as a demon in the mirror. Again, this event occurring in the international, the entire world talking about seeing them, this man seeing himself as a demon in the mirror. You should hear the way the news talks about, it's demonic and satanic and this, that, and the other. It's none of those things. Facing your demons in the mirror, the way that I taught you, is simply a therapeutic way of, it's a therapeutic spiritual practice in a way. It's very simple. It's nothing to be afraid of. And again, we could have helped him. Again, with the tragedy on the train, we tried to warn you. I'm not the only person who's tried to warn America about what's coming and what's happening on the streets. I'm just one in countless voices. But we're trying. And hopefully, you can't, shit in one hand and hope in the other, and you're going to have a handful of shit, right? We can't rely on hope. But I think we see some real change coming. So thank you for listening to that little piece. I appreciate it. I hope you understand why we had to address this today. But I think it's time to get back to the work that we're truly here for. All right, welcome back, folks. Let's pick up from the book Magic, History, Theory, Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl. We're not going to do a whole lot of reading today because we took up a lot of time with that first segment. But I believe we left off on page 74 towards the bottom paragraph, and it starts with this. Due to the fact that it is concentrated in one point, the God center itself is without image or matter and coincides with nothingness. Consequently, it also stops being an event, a phenomenon of consciousness. Because a consciousness, an event without matter, an imagination without something imagined, is a contradiction in terms. Here it is not different than with other things. I think what we're talking about in the beginning is having an imagination but not manifesting it. It's nothingness. You can imagine all of these things that you're going to do all day long, but if you don't take the first step to doing them, it's nothing. You've accomplished nothing. You are not a magician. until you take the first step, until you pick up the first tool, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish and create through your magical practices. You have to put in the work. Without the work, your imagination just disappears. They also possess reality only as part of a phenom mentality and dissolve completely as soon as one wants to erase this phenom mentality. The God Center also possesses reality only as far as it assumes any kind of phenom mentality. Be it a gloomy or a glaring feeling, be it a more or less clear-cut plastic, in the proper sense of the word, pictorial sensation. Just as the cosmic forces in their linear fragmentation dissolve the perception of things and of objects in us, so do these forces in their point concentration create a corresponding perception, which is the most significant, the most saturated with sense, the most intrinsically valued of all perception, the concrete perception of God. So, through science, through your kind of deeper esoteric learnings, we learn what makes up matter, right? Again, through science, you learn about atoms and all the cosmic dynamic forces that hold our physical world together. And it can become quite jarring because the physical world in front of us, these objects, we start to look at them and say, wow, these are just being held together by a force, almost a magnetic force, almost an electrical force, where if you turned off the electricity, this object in front of us would just dissolve. So it can be kind of a mind fuck. Again, we have to remember objects are objects, reality is real, but it can sink you deep into these esoteric thoughts. But with that, also you can start to realize, okay, these spirits, the spirits within us, they are also real. They are also concrete and made of matter in their own way. This perception is just a little right or false as any other material sensation, because perceptions are autogenic, self-being essentialities, which do not resemble other essentialities apart from their own, but which possesses their reality in their phenom mentality. Again, perception, we all perceive things slightly differently based on our ego, based on the cultural, societal, and religious wet blankets that have been placed upon us. So perception plays a huge role in how we view the world and how we think and move through the world. And the actions that we take are based on how we perceive things occurring. But so many times our perception is based on illusion. They are arguably created by paracosmic realities, but they cannot be equated with them just as a curve with an earthquake or as a symptom of poisoning with the poison. So it is foolish to ask if our perception of a deity is right, just as this question has turned out to be foolish with regards to other things. The act of perception itself is always the act of creation of the imagined matter. Again, one person's perception of a god or a spirit or a demon is going to be different than another person's. It is therefore also senseless to claim that the deity might be without image, since it is emerging from a point concentration of non-pictorial paracosmic forces. The pictorial nature or non-pictorial nature of the perception of God depends only on our power. Again, when you look at the image of a demon, the character of a demon that is based off of a human characteristic, greed, lust, gluttony, sloth, wrath, whatever it is, right? These pictorial images that we create are based on feelings that humans have. It's the best way that we had for the longest time to describe these feelings, these human conscious, just these basic human essentialities that we're talking about. We all go through these feelings. We all have these same type of emotions. And again, one way to display that is by creating a character to say, when I'm angry, it looks like this monster. When I'm slothful, it looks like this monster. When I feel greedy, it looks like this monster, right? It's a pictorial. We add an image to these feelings, to these spirits around us, and it helps us deal with them. Again, facing our demons. It takes the fear out of it. You're no longer scared of looking at the demon in the mirror. You understand it. You commune with it. You start to realize what it actually needs. And then it starts to lose any of the negative influence it may have over you. And then it begins to empower you. It's a beautiful process, but you have to go through it. So let's continue on page 76. Now, I highlighted much of this page. Let's see what it says. The magical man is now, as we have already indicated, a man with the highest abilities, with such a great creative power of projection that he is able to affect every perception until it reaches the last material reality. Okay. The magical man is a man with the highest abilities, with great creative power, the power of projection, okay? Through the power of projection, we are able to affect every perception until it reaches the last material reality. As you go through this process, again, whether it takes you 2-3 years more, however long it's going to take you to go through your work, okay? Your perception about things it's going to change. The way you view the things that you have to do in your life are going to change. I read today a post from the great occultist Damien Eccles. I don't know much about him. I've seen some of his posts on Instagram recently. I've heard of him for quite some time. But he was saying in his post today that if you can't find God, quote unquote God, while you are washing the dishes, you're not going to find God in a temple. And what we as occultists mean by that is that when you get into this process of changing who you are, it changes everything. All of your perception changes. The things that used to drive you crazy no longer have any effect. Those things that used to, the minor, small things, inconveniences that maybe would set you off or whatever it might be, all of that starts to melt away and you have a new perception of your reality. You see God in everything. You see the cosmic dynamic force in everything. And you start to, again, go with the flow. That's a big part of it. So much of my life now is more going with the flow, and it's kind of funny because with family and friends, I talk about every new solution comes with its own problem, right? So you solve one thing, but then a new problem becomes from that, whatever the process that you used to solve whatever your issue was, right? But what I realized recently, I've been doing a lot of hard work over at the Mind War Manor, cleaning up the house, cleaning the external siding of the house. I've been working on that for the last few days. And, Father Mind War, he's been having a lot of fun watching me do all this hard work. He is a great supervisor. And I realized, Yesterday I was in a hurry to get started, right? And I had the long extending pole with the brush on the end that I was scrubbing the house with after I sprayed the soap on it, right? And as I was getting ready, I walked over to the side of the house that I was going to be cleaning, and I tossed the brush, right? So that long extender handle with the soft bristle brush at the end, I just tossed it in the yard. Gentle toss. But when I did, it just hit perfectly to where the brush snapped off the screw at the end of the big metal pole. It was a little screw made out of plastic that you would screw the brush onto, and it just snapped in half. And I go, fuck, man. One small, simple mistake, because I was trying to rush, ended up costing me another hour because I had to repair that. I had to find another one. We happened to have another extender pole that had a nice metal screw at the end, but that pole was already broken in another reason. So I had to cut one end off, cut the other end. I fixed it. It took, like I said, another half hour, 45 minutes, an hour out of my time because I was trying to rush and I just threw it down. Normally, that type of event would upset anybody and ruin the whole process. But again, through my perception, because I am trying more and more to go with the flow and understand where I can make changes in my own life, small incremental changes that can make things better. Instead of being so upset by this stupid mistake that I made, I learned from it and I said, slow down, bud. Just slow down a little bit. Even today, coming down here to record the podcast, when I got here to the Mind War Estates, I was pretty tired. But I was about to rush right down here and get right to work. But no, I took a step back. I went and laid down just for 5 minutes. That's all I needed. It was just a few deep breaths, just a centering. And now I was refreshed to come down here and get back to work. It's a perception change. Instead of getting angry about the small mistake that I made, it was a learning lesson. And I said, just slow down, Victor. Everything's going to be fine. And I fucking finished that job. I cleaned the house. It looks beautiful. Friends and family are saying it looks like fucking Disney World over at the Mind War Manor. It is so cute. I've taken all the same creativity that you see here in the Mind War podcast. I've applied it to the house. It's turning out wonderful. Don't allow those small things in your life, small mistakes that you make, to derail you. Because often, again, a small thing might happen, normally where you'd become very upset, and you hold on to that anger through the rest of your chore. You got to try to let it go, and don't let it ruin the rest of the day. Because I had a beautiful day. The weather was nice and cool. I smoked copious amounts of weed, ate a bunch of edibles, was listening to some of my favorite podcasts, and worked all day long. It felt great, and the results at the end were amazing. And again, it's all about perception. His perception of God will therefore be pictorial. The mystic, on the other hand, is a man who is indeed a deep capacity for experience, but little power. His perception of God is therefore non-pictorial. That is to say, it gets stuck in the preliminary stage of becoming an image, at the line of mere emotional. So again, the magical man is able to create the pictorial images in their mind for the emotions that they're dealing with. Again, facing the demon in the mirror. The mystic is more just focused on the emotional swelling. And again, I talk about emotions all the time. It's a huge part of magic. You have to process your emotions. You harness your emotions and use them as the fuel for your creative endeavors. Let's go on with one more paragraph here. The magician is not content with experiencing his God merely emotionally, but with the imagination, he lets him take shape and integrates him materially into the environment. For this purpose, he projects his perception of God onto the surrounding space and localizes it at a certain place. This process can happen voluntarily or involuntarily, but it involves, in any case, that which is called theophany. Theophany. That is to say, the becoming an image of God on a hallucinatory basis. Such theophany is very rare and requires a special power of the imagination sphere. More frequent are vaguer face or acoustic hallucinations and phenomenon of compression, which are by themselves already highly advanced, but are also only preliminary stages to completely becoming an image. Let me say that again. More frequent are the vaguer face or acoustic hallucinations. Facing your demons in the mirror, you are using your own face through the techniques that I showed you, your own face with the hallucination over top of it is going to change. This is what we're talking about. This is what it means to face your demons. It's not just a metaphor for dealing with your issues. That's half of it. The other half is actually looking in the mirror and seeing the monster inside of you and no longer fearing them. So folks, that was our reading for today from the book Magic History Theory Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl. I know it was a shorter reading today. We had to address some of those current events. And when we get back, we're going to continue on my magical journey over on Instagram at The Occult Technician in just a moment. All right, welcome back, folks. We're going to pick up where we left off on my magical journey over on Instagram at The Occult Technician. You're going to scroll all the way down to a post from April 20th, 2023. I'm sitting at the kitchen table over in the Mind War Estates, and I am reading a book, The Complete Guide to Demonolatry. That was an okay book. There was a few interesting things in it, but I didn't get nearly as much information from that book as we did from the book Magic History Theory Practice by Dr. Ernst Schertl. I think this book was much more important to cover than the demonolatry book. It's not a bad one. It's a good read, but I don't think it was something that we needed to spend so much time through. But that was just a fun little video. The voices that you hear there saying that we shouldn't be messing with demons, that was William Montgomery and Duncan Trussell, two of my favorite comedians and podcasters.
That sounds like a nightmare to me.
So many people are messing with demons right these days. Like it's all over TikTok.
They need to stop.
So this was, again, just an example of me kind of trying to add a little humor and brevity to my art. And again, kind of trying to reach out in a way to some of my favorite comedians, right? So the next post, again, this one is also from April 20th, 2023. Again, another post with Duncan Trussell, again, William Montgomery. I think it was from the same podcast. They were, again, talking about people trying to bring demonic spirits into our reality. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's kind of exactly what I'm doing at this stage of my work. I was trying to figure out, what are demons? What does it mean? Why is everyone so afraid of them? And how can we harness their power? So I thought that was just a fun little video.
If we don't come to terms with the reality that there are legions of demonic entities of all shapes, all sizes, all color, all genders, all of them just trying to break through the veil, get into our dimension.
So the next video that we see is April 21st, 2023. And the first image there is a video. You see my sigil here. And what I did is I found kind of a psychedelic video on YouTube. And through my projector, I projected it on to the sigil here. And it is a very over-the-top example of what it looks like when I am down here in the Mind War Studios doing my magical practice. On the new moon, when I am down here in the studios and I've set up my altar and everything, and I am on the enhancements of magic mushrooms and THC, I'm doing my breath work, I'm doing my kundalini, and I'm doing the stare. When I look at the sigil behind me, it is fluid, it is moving, right? It's so beautiful when you get into this state of being. When I'm down here and I'm sitting in front of my altar and I'm in this state of being, and the longer that I hold the stare, the more the hallucinations occur. The more the sigil behind me will begin to breathe and swirl and become fluid. All the symbols that are on the walls here on both sides of me, they begin to breathe. The colors begin to change, right? And especially if you set it up with any type of colored lights in the room. I've done that multiple times. It helps with the kind of hallucinatory things. And again, you're trying to do this. Again, through this work, we are getting ourselves into a state of somnambulance, a state of psychosis. We've talked about that before. We are psychopaths when we get into this. And I know that's been said to be a bad term, but there are times in your life where you need to be a psychopath. The author, Dr. Ernst Schertl, said some of the best leaders of the world, the most respected and looked up to people in history, are psychopaths. Sometimes you have to get into that state of mind in order to see things differently, in order to challenge your own way of thinking, right? And so, again, when you get into this state of somnambulance, if you are doing all of these things, again, the psilocybin, the THC, the breath work, the kundalini, you are going to have hallucinations. And I wanted to try to present that to everyone through my art, to say this is kind of what it looks like when I'm down here. Again, not nearly to this extreme, but it's beautiful when you experience it. So we go through the rest of this post. A very typical card pull. I'm showing the different tools that I use. I'm going through my sigil kind of worksheet there, and it was a very beautiful, very powerful night, of course. And there at the end, the last slide there, you see the injectable medication that I have to take in order to stay healthy. A quick note on that. I took my medication a few days ago. Again, it is an auto-injecting syringe, right? I push the device up against my skin on my thigh. The needle punctures the skin and it pushes the medicine in. Well, I did it the other day and I didn't push hard enough. The needle did not puncture my skin, and ultimately the medicine just drained down my leg, never made it into my system. That was about 4 days ago, and I am in a decent amount of discomfort, aka pain, right? So hopefully I'll be getting some new medication in the mail soon and be feeling better shortly. But your buddy Victor here is struggling today. So we're going to go on to our next post from May 4th, 2023. This is, again, another post where I have multiplied myself for a picture. You see on each side, you have security Victor there keeping an eye on things, Officer Vic. You see in the purple column, the chair is empty. Okay. The reason that I left the chair empty in this photo is a offering for you to join. I would like you to come to the Mind War Institute and do the work, right? Again, the Institute at this point is not a real location at this point, but it is a mindset and a kind of vague set of instructions that I've shared with all of you on what to do. You can be the apprentice as well. That column is always left for the apprentice, and that was me using the color purple, that healing color of purple, saying, if you are ready to heal your mind, body, and spirit, there is a place ready for you next to me. And ultimately, there I am, Victor. I am sitting there in the rocking chair with my best buddy Leo, my Boston Terrier. My hope is that in the future, as I become known as one of the most prolific occultists of our age, of Generation X, I really hope that I become the kind of main occultist, the most recognized occultist from Generation X. That's the photo I want everyone to use. Not only am I there with my best buddy Leo, he's so important to me, but that is a very serious and stoic look on my face. It shows the importance of what we do here with this work, and that I am very serious about this work. So we go on to our next video. This was from the next day. This was May 5th, 2023. In this, folks, so we were already multiple months in. I had been doing magic for a year and a half at this time. I've been doing my art for almost a year and a half. I had taken pictures of myself. You've seen me in art a little bit, but this is the first time that I sat down in front of the video camera and introduced myself to all of you. We're going to watch that video right now, and then we're going to discuss what I said. Hello, everyone. My name is Victor. I am the occult technician. As a way of introducing myself to all of you, I have created a series of videos that I call My Magical Year. If you stick around long enough, a story of epic proportions begins to unfold. This is a story of demonic communion, blood offerings, psychedelic trances, astral travel, Christian cults, mind control, religious betrayal, pain, suffering, and revenge. But most importantly, this is a story of renewal, healing, and love. The video series can be found on my YouTube channel at The Occult Technician. A link is in my bio. Here you will find a playlist titled My Magical Year. Please do not try this at home. Nothing that you are about to hear is real. It's all fake. I'm not actually doing any of the things I talk about in these videos, and neither should you. Thank you for joining me as we watch this epic tale unfold together. Your friend Victor, the Occult Technician. Wow, folks. I mean, this was my introduction video almost 2 years ago. I promised all of you an epic story. This was long before I even thought of doing a podcast. This was before I even thought about the future art projects I'm going to be working on. But I had come far enough to where I said, something's happening here, and I need to tell people about it. This was before my second listen through of the Gateway Experience tapes, where we went through the entire series. Remember, we did the whole year of the Gateway Experience tapes. A series in which not only did we get to know each tape individually and the amazing events that occur while you're listening to the tapes as you're having these out-of-body experiences, but again, once the tapes moved from self-help in, waves 6, 7, and 8, they moved into a whole different direction to where instead of self-help, we were helping people who recently died move into the afterlife. I had no idea that the Gateway Experience tapes contained that type of practice. And exactly the moment when the tapes transitioned is when my mother got her cancer diagnosis. And through the remaining 3 months of that series, as my mother was dying, I went through those tapes and helped her move into the afterlife. Absolutely amazing. There is no coincidence here in the Mind War. That is such a beautiful series, and I hope you go back and watch it. It's Mind War Season 3, Episode 1. Start there. But I promised you an epic journey. I promised you an epic story about religious cults. My friend Deog. We're hearing that again. He's from the 12 tribes, the cult that runs the Yellow Delis. We're going to be talking more about that. All of those things that I promised you almost, 2 years ago? Folks, I think I've delivered. And we're not even done yet. It feels so amazing to look back at this 2 years ago and look back at me. I was nervous in this video. This is the first time I talked to anyone in a video like this. I'm reading from a script. The camera is literally a mirror image. It's reversed. It's not even correct, right? I mean, it's amazing going back and watching this and saying, Victor, you did it. You told the people you were going to bring them an epic story, and that's exactly what you've done, and that's exactly what you're doing. It feels fucking amazing, folks. But most importantly, towards the end of that video, I want to remind you of what I said. Do not try this at home. Nothing that you are about to hear is real. I'm not doing any of the things I talk about in these videos, and neither should you. Right? There's an importance to that. I said that for a reason. One, to kind of get people off my back who may not like what I'm actually doing, and present it to those who do not want to believe that, oh, this is just a character, I'm just telling this fake story, it's just an art piece. In many ways, that is all it is. But at the same time, I'm actually doing and experiencing everything that I've talked about. Whether those things are real or not, it's up to you to decide. And the only way that you're ever going to be able to truly decide and understand whether what I've experienced is real or not is you have to have your own experiences. It's one of the few cardinal rules here in the Mind War. You have to have your own experiences, and you have to share them with others. I appreciate you being here, folks. And as always, remember, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.